Hello, everyone. This is Criminal Profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 166. I want to welcome everybody to the chat room. I just managed to race in at the last minute, so I didn't get to say hello to everybody. But I see you all here. There's Lady Jane, Asha's here, Lisa S is here, Cecilia's here, Christy's here, Molly's here. Did I say Cecilia already? Allison's here, Nancy's here, Dee Dee is here, Dogs Discussion. Julia's here, Felicity's here, and if I didn't say your name, I feel bad. It's been a long couple of days for me. I didn't get any sleep last night, so I'm a little goofy, and so I won't get into all that. But anyway, let's get to the show. I want to start out by saying I know a lot of you have been watching the Delphi situation, and I've been doing shows, not every day, but when I have something to say. So yesterday I did just a short bit, 6 minutes, on the fact that the defense rested. They took half the time that the prosecution did, but the defense rested. So I gave my opinion on that. I think they're doing closing arguments today. So I should be back tonight or tomorrow with my opinions on the closing arguments and some other thoughts. So I will definitely do a little bit more on Delphi. And Weevil just rolled in. Hi, Weevil. Oh, if you'd like to be in the chat room for the live part of the show, please do click on Patreon below. It's $5 a month, and there are 2 live shows a week, a hangout like this, and the case analysis show on the weekend. And so there's 8 a month, and part of a great community. Supports this educational channel. But please, other than that, please do like and subscribe. Please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And all my videos are public. There are no private videos. Once the live part is finished, I make them all public. So everybody can learn something. So, all right, next thing. This also I'm gonna pimp for myself. So I started a second channel called Do a Profiler Pat. I've sent out a lot of notices of this. I'm moving over the shows I've already done from this channel, because this really doesn't belong, the profiler stuff. It's an advice thing, and it's a profiler giving advice. And so I thought it's better on a separate channel. People have been asking me to do that. So now I've moved it over, and I'm starting over with a brand new channel. So it's kind of painful because I'm used to having quite a few subscribers. And now I'm like, oh, looky, I have 132 subscribers today. And but I have a bunch of videos to move over. And I've started doing some new stuff too. So people are sending me, Dear Profiler Pat, a request for advice at profilerpat@gmail.com. Put that information below. And I'm sending over a couple of I'm trying to get the old ones over, but I wanted to put new ones up as well, so that people who've seen all my old stuff can see the new stuff, and the new people can see all of the stuff. So, and please subscribe to the channel and get that thing going. So anyway, so that's that. The other things people always ask me about, how's the feral cat? The feral cat is pissed off at me. We had a little fight because our first fight, because he attacked me. I was holding out his food and he decided to be nasty. And I pulled my hand back, and then he freaked. And so now he went over there and he sulked in the corner. And now he'll come and eat the food, but he doesn't like my hand now. So every time my hand gets anywhere near him, even to feed him, he just backs off. So he's being stubborn. Feral cat pain. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Wait a minute. I gotta read this. It's ideal for couple. Oh, you're putting out more shirts. Couples T-shirts. Someone has suggested. I'm with a psychopath and I'm with adult. Yeah, I know y'all want me to do a merch channel with shirts that have all my sayings on them. So yeah, I'm with a psychopath. I'm with adult. I do say that. Felicity says, what a naughty boy. But I think that him not leaving after the fight is a good sign. Yeah, but he's coming. He's just giving me the stink eye when he comes in. He's like, he stays back and he goes, okay, you're not gonna bother me, are you? And then I leave him alone. I'm like, come on, just come and eat the food. And then he comes closer, but he's just playing. I don't know. He's being more scared than he was in a while back because of the issue over so we'll see if he gets over it. Oh, you can see and hear me. Oh, that is good. Thank you. It wasn't a question today, but sometimes people don't see and hear me, and I'm talking to myself and wondering why nobody's paying any attention. Anyway, oh, and the other thing here, I have an evidence thing for you before I start with all the crime stuff. Here's an evidence thing. So I showed you last week one of my pastel paintings I was working on. So I was working on this. I've never done flowers before. So I was doing this flower thing. And I'm looking at this painting going, what the hell is wrong with it? I mean, along with picky stuff, but what's the main thing wrong with this painting? So I want to see, I'll give it a 10, and then you see if anybody catches what's wrong with this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, you're detectives, you looked at the evidence, what's wrong with it? See if anybody gets it. Oh, that's beautiful, thank you, but that's not what's wrong with it. Did you see the problem? Did anybody see what was wrong with that? If you were a detective, you came into the room, what would you note? There you go, Lady Jane got it. No water. So I'm looking at this thing, I can't figure it problem. And then I realized, oh my God, there's no water in the vase, and nobody else caught that. It was funny because I actually asked the teacher, I said, what's wrong with this picture? And she thought it was fine. I'm like, so what I had to do is this. So now you see that now the vase has water in it and the flowers won't die. But sometimes it's some simple things that if you're also analyzing stuff, you'll be surprised at. This is why a group of people analyzing is always better. Getting somebody else's opinion, especially on something that you're maybe not as sure about. Could be a cultural thing. Could be just anything. That how would this? What am I missing in this person's interview? And somebody goes, "Well, didn't you notice?" And you're like, "Actually, no, didn't notice it at all." Just because, for whatever reasons, it was something that I just missed, or something that I wasn't familiar with. So that's why it's always good for more people to analyze. Yeah, it looks much better with some water in it. You know what I mean? So, you thought there was water in that vase? Oh no, the other new one looks better. The line on the top looked like water. No, that was actually just the top of the vase. So no, so that just didn't have the right look to me. So when I put the actual one in there, water's tricky, especially when you don't put it in the vase. So look again. There theoretically could be water there, and it could be. I could see where you might think it's the top, but it's not very clear. Where it's obviously there's water in the vase. But these are things that when we analyze and we're looking at a case, it makes a difference. Oh, and so the last thing I'll show you for the brief fun stuff is now I did this picture. This one I didn't have any issues with. So this is a poppy field done in pastel, and I like this one. This one I was really happy with, and I think it came out fine. And but I was halfway through it, and then I had to step back and say what's missing, and I asked a few people what's missing, and the one person, the teacher said the mountains weren't dark enough, and another one said there wasn't enough change between the grass in front and the grass, that all looked blended in, and so add a little of something. And another one said you need to put more dark stuff in the front, so it looks more, you can see the depth of the field. And these are things that I didn't really think about, and now after I was told that, then I fixed it, and it turned out to be a nice picture. So other people's input is always useful, and that's true with profiling, and it's true with, I say, detectives working together, or bringing in an outside person to analyze a case that they've already analyzed, but they think, well, there's nothing more to see here. And I worked with those police departments where I've come in and I've looked at it and gone, oh my God, they missed this, 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 and this. And when I tell them that, and I show them, they're like, wow, none of us saw that. And that might be even a group of people. None of us even noticed that. So different eyes always do help. And so I always believe that, and even people who aren't experts in a field sometimes have an insight that the experts don't. Now, sometimes there's a lot of nonsense. People think, oh, I understand everything. I can profile crimes, even though I've never done that. And they just come up with a whole bunch of bogus crap. I see that all the time too. But on the other hand, some people have good insight that the person analyzing myself doesn't have on that. Like, I don't know crap about cars. So if I were analyzing a case on cars, I need to go talk to people who understand cars, because otherwise I'm going to be a dunce. and I'm going to guess things, and I'm not going to really know. If in another culture, for example, let's say, oh, I don't know, let's say there was a crime in the Cambodian community. Well, I like Cambodian food, but I don't know any Cambodians. So what do I know about their culture? About zero. Now, about the Indian culture, I know a lot. So if there's a crime in the Indian community, I'm pretty good with that. And I've seen detectives who are analyzing crimes in an Indian community, and they miss some of the things I see there. And I had that in one case. I actually called up in California. I said, hey, I don't know, but I don't see that you check this out. But having been around the Indian community, I can tell you this is meaningful. And they were like, we never thought of that. And it's because you're not Indian and you're not hanging around them. So it's always good to go out, people always think about experts' opinions are always things like ballistics, DNA, blood spatter pattern. If you think of forensic pathology, but who thinks about, oh, I don't know, cultures, different cultures, how somebody knits might be important in a crime. Like there's a woman who's murdered while she's knitting. Well, maybe there's some information in the knitting, but just because maybe she all of a sudden did something with a stitch didn't make sense, or maybe it's the way she put her knitting aside that maybe that showed that she was interrupted. I don't know, because that's not my thing. But people who knit would maybe nitpick, about all kinds of things. Well, no, she wouldn't have done that, and she wouldn't have done that, and that's just weird. So there can be these other things in crimes that have nothing to do with the major experts. But sometimes I've gone into a community and actually just asked people, what do you think? You live here. What do you think? Do you think a person would come down this road? Can you hear stuff at night? Just find out from the people in the community what's going on. So that's always useful to have other people's input. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's got to be one of my favorites. So, what? We need some pastel crime scenes for T-shirts. I have never thought about doing crime scenes with pastels. That sounds kind of deranged. My gosh. Oh, Felicity says, previously you mentioned red cars being rare and therefore spottable in cases from the 1980s, but they were approximately 25% of the market at the time. Real 25% in the 80s? In the US? I find that hard to believe. I'm sorry. I've lived in the US through the 80s, and I don't remember hardly. Red cars were few and far between. There might have been more in the 80s than there are now, but red cars in the 80s? I don't know. You'd have to send me the information on that, because I would question that. Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing that at all. Maybe in other countries, yes, I've seen way more colors in other countries, not in the U.S. Now, back in the day when, if you go way back, I think to some of those cool cars of the 50s, 40s, and 60s, I think they were way more red then, but I don't remember it being in the 80s. But hey, yeah, find a source on that. I'm interested. Your mom had 3 red cars. Okay. She's like me then, because I love my red car. I have my cute little red car. And of course it's convertible, and it's a little Mazda Miata, and it's fun to drive around this bright red thing. I like bright cars, but I find that when I'm driving around, I don't see red cars around me on the road. And I'm trying to think of what I drove in the 1980s. Can you remember? That's too far back. What was my car back then? Wasn't anything great. I'm pretty sure it was a cheap something that, we bought some old used car that kept us going for a while. So yeah, try to find the source on that. I'd be curious. All right, now to actual crime stuff. Let's see, what is this one? I mentioned this guy the other week, and this guy was the one. He was the murder victim, and I mentioned that this judge in Maryland only gave his murderer 10 years, and the family was pissed because he was shot execution style, kneeling on the ground, shot in the head. And I think the prosecution claimed the killer was MS-13. Now so this particular story, they find the judge some information comes out as to why the judge lowered it to 10 years and gave him manslaughter, the highest level of manslaughter, but not murder. And you ask, how is this possible? All right. And the judge said, because there's information you don't know from behind the scene. Well, this apparently did play out in court because this was his defense. The killer's defense was what I'm going to tell you. So anyway, it says here the state's attorney's office and the family of Antoine Dorsey. This is Antoine Dorsey. And that's Antoine on the left with his whole family. Condemned Prince George's judge Darren Johnson's sentence is too lenient for a case of first-degree murder. Now, what happened? The minimum requirement recommended penalty for first-degree murder in Maryland is life in prison. That's what Dorsey expected for the man who prosecutors said fatally shot his little brother, execution style, on his knees in a wooded area of Beltsville, Maryland. A jury had already convicted him. Now it was time for the sentencing. So it did go through the jury. So Antoine's life, his brother says, was intentionally taken. And our family's request that you decide on the highest level of consequence, which I hope is the defendant behind bars for the rest of his life. But they didn't get that. He gave him a more lenient term, citing evidence he said had not been seen by the jury that convicted 21-year-old Anderson Alexis Blanco Diaz of murder and related weapons charges. After hearing from both sides, Johnson sentenced Blanco Diaz to a 10-year active prison sentence in the killing of Antoine Dorsey, 27. All right, so now, meanwhile, by the way, the judge there, Johnson, is on the ballot, seeking his full 15-year term as a circuit judge. So he was up for election. I don't know if he thought that this would help. So anyway, the prosecutors were stunned and pissed off about this. To say I'm disappointed would be an understatement, said Asha, brave boy. That's our state's attorney. Family deserved justice and didn't get it. All right. Now, Johnson, the judge, said, in my position, the most difficult thing the court is tasked with is having to value somebody's life versus redemption for somebody's life. So he went by guidelines and said he could lower it. So he lowered it to 10. Now, what the hell happened here? The stuff that supposedly the jury didn't know. That it was an accident that he was not executed. It was an accident. Now, I've told you many times how after a person is arrested, the attorneys get together, the defense attorney gets together and says, okay, what story can we come up with? Because your story looks like first-degree murder. Guy's kneeling on the ground, you shoot him in the head. Kind of looks like first-degree murder. And you're considering that you might be gang affiliated, you're going to look like you executed the guy. In a remote place, by the way. So how are we going to get you out of this? So we'll come up with a story. This is a story they came up with. That it was an accident. Here is what happened. Okay, let me go find the story. This is what the starkly differing accounts were told. Okay, the prosecutor said in July 5th of 2022, Blanco Diaz, associated with the MS-13 gang, killed Anthony Dorsey with a single close-range gunshot to the head while he knelt on the ground. A passerby found at 9 p.m. found Antoine Dorsey wounded in the roadway at the section of Beaver Dam and Biocontrol Roads in the Beltsville area. And the police came and took him to hospital. And he's dead. In an interview, Bird said, this is the lawyer, that Dorsey, that's the victim, Blanco Diaz, and a teenager went out to, this is the amusing one, went out to shoot at trees at night. Shoot at trees at night. Well, the location they went to shoot at trees at night, first of all, who goes and shoots at trees at night? I somehow doubt that. But the location they picked is like more of a location where you go to execute somebody, not where you go shoot trees at night. So they went to shoot trees at night, an outing that had been planned. When Dorsey stooped in front of Blanco Diaz. So the claim is they were out there to shoot, and Diaz put his gun to shoot at the tree, and the victim knelt in front of him. How did they put that? Stooped in front of him. stooped in front of him. So he was standing up in front of him when he put the gun out. So then he stooped and he only shot him in the head. Okay. That's your story? Yeah. Okay. And then you left him there to die and drove away. Because it was an accident that while you were out shooting at trees in the night. And that is why it was manslaughter and not murder. And the judge decided this guy shouldn't get life in prison. Okay. What crimes can I commit accidentally? Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, yeah, that makes zero sense at all. Absolutely garbage sense. And so, and he also illegally has a weapon too. So the guy's a gangbanger. You know what I mean? He's a dangerous gang guy. And this is the story. So he's blaming the victim, first of all, in two ways. The victim helped. They planned this with the victim. The victim went willingly with them. And then the victim did something stupid and got himself shot. That you think the family would be pissed for a darn good reason. Yeah. Insane. So that's one I just thought was an interesting one, to how they're getting around that nonsense. Okay, this one, I want to talk about Asha Degree just for a second. I've done a bunch, a main show on Asha Degree, and also on the recent, in September, they came and said they were searching all kinds of houses, properties, digging everything up to find the body of Asha. And they did have some DNA from a bag and a piece of hair. And so they connected this family with this other guy, and it's all in the other stuff that's already been done. And now we've heard nothing. They didn't find a body anyplace. And so, well, sometimes people say, well, what's happening with that case? And the answer is, we don't know. Sometimes you'll have this explosion of something that comes out because they get a tip of some sort. In this case, actually, they had some DNA and a hair, which was pretty good. It's better than some erroneous tip. So they got a good tip, and it does link into people that could have been involved, for sure. Could have been. But then the question is, what's going to happen from here on out? And maybe nothing. Maybe nothing, because if they can't prove anything, they still can't prove anything. Or maybe something will come of it. One day we'll hear that somebody was arrested and charged with the murder of Asha Degree. But sometimes we get this burst and everybody gets very excited. And this was probably better information than some. But then you don't hear any more of it. And you go, what happened? Well, there's another story that just came out on Jodi Huisentruit. And somebody said, hey, Pat, have you heard of the breaking news in the Jodi Huisentruit case? And this one is not as spectacular. So, but let me tell you what. Hold on a second. Jodi, where'd you go? Okay, where'd it go? Hold on a second. My page is gone on it. Oh, huge update from the Daily Mail. Huge update. Okay. It's the 1995 disappearance of Iowa news anchor Jodi Huisentruit. And I will also try to remember to link below the whole thing I did on Jodi. And Jodi was coming out of her apartment on the way to work. And she was, you can see from this picture, she was attacked at her car. She was abducted. A shoe was left. Her car key was bent, and she was never seen again. She was a well-known news anchor, well-liked, very pretty young woman. And they really didn't have great suspects. There were a bunch of them, but there was a number one suspect in the eyes of pretty much the eyes of law enforcement and of people on the internet. And his name is, well, he's on the left here. He was a friend of Jodi's and rather an admirer, an older man who really liked her. And could he have been like obsessed with her? And it's possible. His name was I think it's John Van Syce. Did something with my typing here, and it's not in the article. I've forgotten. His Van Syce is his last name for sure. And I considered him as a suspect, thinking, well, possible, but I didn't. The whole way the crime went down didn't make sense to me to be Van Syce. She had spent the evening when they were celebrating something I think it was birthday or something. Anyway, he had given a little party and her friends were there and she was there. And then she went home. Now, he did have a sort of thing for her, I guess, but he was also a fairly wealthy man and they went out on his boat and all that stuff. He liked the young people and the pretty people and, like being needed, that kind of thing. And it seems to me like there's a million ways for him. First of all, he might not want to lose her out of his life if she did it, like hanging around him. And he liked hanging around her. Now, she could have refused his advances, so could have been pissed and decided, well, I'm like a stalker. I'm going to get my one last chance with her. So he decides to go to her apartment and abduct her out of the parking lot. What I found odd was that there's easier ways for a guy who knows her to spirit her away and do something to her, rather than the violent assault at her car where she struggles. It just seems odd. It seems an extremely odd way when he's a very, charismatic, kind of smooth talking, friendly guy. She knows. So I personally think it's more likely to be a stalker or a serial killer that saw her coming out, knew she came out at that wee hours of the morning because she was supposed to go to work early to be on TV. And they had her eye on them. When she went to her car, they just jumped out and grabbed her and pulled her into a van and drove off. But am I wrong? So let's look at if I'm wrong. Okay, so the breaking news or huge update. Nearly 30 years after Iowa news anchor Jodi Huisentruit disappeared, a random tip has led police to what could be a major breakthrough. 2 weeks ago, investigators searched an area in Winsted, Minnesota, a rural city northwest of the Twin Cities, as part of their investigation. The search was focused on a construction site where new apartment buildings were being built. Mason Police Chief Jeff Brinkley did not provide specifics about the case or the tipster, but shared a statement on Find Jodi website asking the police public to contact them or the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation if they have any information. And so they're digging up. It's a picture here of it. Oh, sorry, that's me. Okay, down there you'll see an area of a construction site. So supposedly they're digging that place up. Winsted is 45 minutes west of the Twin Cities, so somebody had to drive to that location and bury her there. At this time, there's no additional information for public release. Oh, John Van Syce, here's the information here. Only one person has been considered a person of interest. John Van Syce, who was 50 at the time and friends with Huisentruit, told police he was the last person to see her alive because she was at his house and she went home. And she did go home. There's no question she went home. She went home. She was obviously there. She was leaving the house in the morning to go to her car because that's where she was attacked. So she did go home. And just because he's the last person to see her certainly doesn't mean he killed her. Especially says he wasn't. It wasn't one of these cases where he was the last person to see her and nobody saw her again, and there was no other information. She was alive after that. That is a different matter. So she had come over to his house the night before to watch a birthday video, but insisted he was not involved in her disappearance. Apparently, he gave his DNA. He did 2 polygraphs. He cooperated, and he absolutely went through hell. So if he did kill her, then going through hell, well, I'm not bothered by that. But if he's this innocent guy who's just a friend of hers, he has been through hell. He's moved, I think, to Arizona because he's out of there, Now, why are they digging up this area? Well, a tip at just what would take them to this location. So my question is this person, is this area linked to John Van Syce in some way? In other words, was he out there for some reason? Did he have a relative owned a field out there that was sold to the construction company or something? I don't know. They're not saying. There's other possibilities. As a construction worker could have grabbed her and buried her at a place where he knew construction was going to happen. That's possible. I don't know. This just happened. It's been, just so we understand the huge update. This came in on the 4th of November. So we're talking 2 weeks. Oh, 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. So they've dug up the place for 2 weeks and come up with, I guess, 0. So we may never hear again about this, or, again, people are jumping to saying, oh my God, this is it. And it may well not be it. It's just, they got a tip. I don't know how legitimate it was, or if it's connected to a known person like Van Syce. So they're following it up like they should. But just be, when we're dealing with cold cases and you hear about these breakthroughs, and this is happening, it doesn't always mean something's going to happen, that they're actually going to find the evidence to solve the case. And there's always a flurry around that when it happens. And then oftentimes, 9 out of 10 times, it just dies down. You never hear again. You're like, whatever happened to? Like, what has happened with Asia degree case? It's been 2 months now. We haven't heard anything. People keep hoping they will, but now it's just quiet. So that's what happens with these things. And, it's frustrating, but such as it is. We had somebody saying he had a boat makes up for his tasteless clothing. Girls, okay. What young women, if any of you are here, easily entranced by people who have a motorboat. I don't mean a small fishing motorboat. I mean some kind of sport boat. They like this. It's something about the water and boats that young women really go for. So it's one of those lures. It really is a lure. So some guys know they should get these things that will lure women, and it works. So and it works. Let's see. So I'll point out this case, which, right, because of this similar interesting situation. Where is she? No, missing on me. My picture is gone. Well, this is where people take shots. Pat Brown lost her picture again. There she is. I see her here. Why isn't she over here? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, when this happens, when this happens, I do it the old-fashioned way. Wait a minute. Okay, look, this is a picture of the woman. Okay, her name is Barbara Bolick. The interesting thing was the end of this article. This is a mystery of a woman who disappeared without a trace. And this happened in 2007 in Montana. Now listen to this. Mystery of a woman who disappeared without a trace after hiking partner turned their back for 45 seconds. Okay, so says Barbara Bolick was hiking in Montana near the Bear Creek overlook outside Victor and disappeared after her hiking partner looked away for just 45 seconds. And then she wasn't behind him. Even now, officials have no leads as to what happened that day. Last year, law enforcement sent out a new post asking for anything people may know about what transpired, to piece together the events that led up to her vanishing without a trace. Bolick's hiking partner was Jim Romaker, who claims, proper word, thank you for saying that, claims. The problem we have so often is when they just say this is what happened, and it isn't what happened, it's what the person claimed happened. I just did the doorstep murder. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And it's about a man who was shot on his doorstep. And the only witness was his wife. And most of the stories go that a man knocked on their door, she answered it, and saw a man in a baseball cap, and the man asked for her husband. And she went and got her husband. He came down, and the man on the doorstep handed her husband a blue envelope. And then the husband shut the door, went upstairs, and says, I don't understand this. This is, what the heck? I don't understand why this guy's gave this to me. There was a name on the envelope that wasn't his, Paul. And he was confused because there's nothing in the envelope. So he decided to go back down and talk to this man if he was still there. So he goes back down, opens the door. The man is still there. They have a chat, and then there's gunshots, and he's dead on the doorstep. Shot 3 times. And it's always stated like that. And I'm looking at this going, why don't you say claiming? Because we don't know. 1, that there was a guy on the doorstep, because there were no other witnesses to a guy on the doorstep. 2, there's no evidence of what he looked like except for what the wife says, what she claimed he looked like. Then there was the blue envelope. It's her claim there was a blue envelope because no blue envelope was ever found, so the man would have had to take it away with him. There's no proof of a blue envelope. The name Paul written on the blue envelope is what she says was on the blue envelope. So everything is a claim from her. Now, it may have happened exactly the way she said. The problem is people just accept it. And I'm like, why are you accepting it with not at least keeping in mind, we don't know. She could be relating some of it true properly, or she could be changing some things up. We don't know. Or she could be making the whole thing up. We don't know unless you interrogate her properly and get the information and so on and so forth. So was he shot on the doorstep? That is true because his body was on the doorstep, shot 3 times. That we know. And we also know what gun shot him because the person dumped the gun in a drain 3/4 of a mile away. So we know that what the gun was. We know that he shot on the doorstep. We just don't know that what actually happened. And when people don't say claimed, it bugs me, but even if the person is telling the truth. So this Jim, who was with her, who looked away for 45 seconds and then looked back and she wasn't there, we can't say that she disappeared when he looked away because we don't know that. We just know that's what he claims. So thank you for this article being written correctly. Claims that she was there was one moment and gone the next. Jim was the last person to ever see her alive. And although that seems fishy to some, police believe he had no connection with her disappearance. Why? And why? How would he absolutely not? How would he be proven not to be connected with a disappearance if he's hiking with her and she was right behind him? And by the way, if you're a gentleman, actually she should be in front of you so that you can see. You always the faster person always should be behind the slower person. So or the person they're protecting, so that they can keep an eye on them. They don't just lose them. Oh, he lost her because he's supposed to was in front of her, right? And was there any proof he couldn't have done something to her? Now, they never found her body up there, which is interesting. So what happened to her? If they're on a trail someplace, why would she just vanish? I'm pretty sure that a bear came out and grabbed her. That would be kind of noticeable. She just what? Just what? I mean, if you're only 45 seconds, she's not there and you turn around, there's only so far she could have gone, and she's no way there. And I don't know. I don't have enough information here to find out how long did it take him to tell somebody that she was gone. I mean, how far was he from the trailhead? So that he was 1 minute from the trailhead and he ran right in and said, she just vanished. Come and help me. Did he say that? Was there proof when he got there? I mean, I don't know any of this stuff, but it's weird. So anyway, news historian and former NBC Montana news director Jim Harmon retold the case, explaining they were only a short distance apart, yet in a few seconds he looks back and she's not there. It's just amazing to me. How in the world did that happen? How could she not just have been a short distance down the hill? It's an absolute mystery. And this happened a long time ago. So now, she's been missing quite a while. According to reports, she was last seen wearing a pastel-colored shirt, tan shorts, and a black backpack. What reports? Who reported seeing her with that? Was that Jim, the guy with her, or was that other people? And they don't say here. If you want people not to assume things and come up with some theory that as a police officer, it's not correct, don't put stuff out in the media that isn't explained properly. So then they did a costly search, but they never found him. All right, now, hold on a second. It just reloaded on me. Okay, here we go. Okay. So hundreds and thousands of dollars are put in there. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Some conspiracists believe that Bolick faked her death and ran away to start a new life. But they shared information that building a life after disappearing would be a wasted effort. It would be hard to do. Well, okay, lots of people do that. So that's not something that's not proven. But the 45 seconds is a little weird. So that says we're perplexed, says the county sheriff. We've combed the area very well. No trace has been found. We would like. Here's the great line. Okay, here's the great line, folks. We would like, after they're saying all this, that she was last seen with this outfit on, that she was seen, he was with her, and she disappeared 45 seconds, and when he looked away, this is the last line. This is from the police. We would like to verify, if we can, that Bolick was even on the mountain that day. It's like, whoa, what? What? Oh, so no one was there except supposedly the two of them. You don't even know if she was on the mountain. You don't, therefore his story is extremely questionable. So then yeah, that's the information. But he's not involved, they said. he's clearly is the last person to see her, because nobody is saying that they saw her on the mountain. So, and apparently nobody's saying they saw her. Why don't they say the last time she was seen outside of the guy with her? Why don't they say that? Why don't they say she was last seen at work at 5 o'clock and on Friday and wasn't seen again except by the claim of her hiking partner on Saturday? Why don't they say that? Why don't they say they saw her in a convenience store getting coffee with him on that morning, but nobody saw them after they were in the convenience store? What is all this missing information? And I don't buy a story. I think it sounds extremely strange. So I don't know if they were ever on the mountain. So interesting story, but yeah, yeah. So yeah. Marion's going back to the doorstep. The blue envelope story is bizarre. If a stranger handed it to someone, wouldn't that person hand it back saying that's not me? Well, supposedly that's what he did. Well, not in the beginning though. Yes, supposedly he was talking to the guy on the doorstep, was handed this blue envelope, and he talked to the guy, but I don't know what was said because we don't know what was said, if it even was anything that was said. And then he came upstairs with this blue envelope looking puzzled. That was the wife claims. That's a very strange story. Oh, that's terrible. Where Evil says she was last seen 45 seconds before he turned off the power to the wood chipper. Oh, you're so, yeah, it could happen. It's like, yep. That is, why is this obsession with my hair down? You know why my hair is never down? Because too much damn work. People don't get this. And when I was doing television, I had a hairstylist, but at home I have no ability with a hairbrush, none. And then I have to go get my hair cut and try to do it. Then I got to try to style the damn thing, and I can't do it. The best you're ever going to see is when I get more bald on the sides, I'll stick a wig on, because I would do a wig more than I'd try to brush my damn hair out. So only when I do television that I have a hairstylist are you going to see my hair done. I'm way too lazy. So often I do so many of these shows too, that the advantage to YouTube, I'll admit this, when I did television, I had, especially back in the days when I did television, many, many shows, I had a big collection of suits, because we used to wear suits back when I started in 2000. It didn't worry about the bottom, because that was never seen hardly ever. So, usually it was just you want to have proper suit tops and blouses and all that. And I had jewelry on, and then I would go in and I'd get my hair and makeup done for every show. But, with YouTube, that's a lot of work. When you're doing all these shows and you're just ready to, it's time to do it. It's easy just to throw on a regular old shirt, pull your hair back, put on my 3 minutes of makeup, and say, screw it. I hope everybody here is here to learn and not to give a crap about, how marvelous I look or how marvelous I don't look. I don't know. Some people absolutely love wigs, like Dolly Parton. She's worn wigs every day of her life. And she looks great. And I've seen a lot of people, especially people who are older, who wear wigs. And I have to say, it makes them look about 10 years younger, because it gives them more fullness to their face, and it more glamorous appeal, and covers up the thinning hair crap and all that stuff. So actually I have pretty thick hair, but except for here. So, but I don't know. I've never tried it. I did. Oh no, I wore a wig. I wore a wig once when I was doing some surveillance undercover, and I got in an elevator with my suspect, so didn't want him to recognize me. So I wore a wig, and it was fun. I actually enjoyed it. So maybe I'll do that. Trust me, a wigs are a pain in the butt. Yeah, it's probably too much work for me too. So I'm just too lazy. Anyway, okay, let's go on. Enough of my inability to glamorize myself. What the heck is that? Oh, well, let's talk about the Menendez girls. Oh, my God. The Menendez brothers, their wives want them out of prison. And I always find it fascinating, because in spite of the claims of how bad abuse was, and I don't want to get into that here again, because it's one day maybe I'll go back and look at everything again. I'm not saying there wasn't abuse. I just don't. I still think the way they planned and plotted this murder and committed this murder, including killing the mother, because the claim was, oh, she either participated or she just ignored, whatever. The way they killed them and then lied. And when they lied to the police, they're on the phone. Look, they do a pretty good job of crying and pretending. So it's really hard to tell if they can do it that well then, why couldn't they do it well in court? And to exaggerate something, because that's not the reason they killed them was any abuse. They were adults. They went back to get rid of them so they could then collect all the money. And they went out and partied hardy, having a great old time until they got caught. And now they're in prison. And now there's a chance of them getting out. And so the two women who are talking about them getting out of prison. So we have Eric Menendez's wife, Tammy Menendez, shares a plea for his release after resentencing decision. Okay. Then it says here, so we're talking about, let me go back to when they got married. Because I think, to me, when people marry people who, there's a term for that, and I've forgotten what it is. People who like to date convicts, get involved in their lives. I will say this, just to be straight up. If you're involved with a convict having a somewhat romantic relationship, you need to go to a psychiatrist, because something's wrong with you. There is something wrong with you. That you would choose to have a relationship with somebody in prison, somebody who's committed a crime, and oftentimes a very violent crime. And you'd rather have that kind of relationship with that kind of person rather than any other person in town. That's a problem. You got something wrong with you. You're either a narcissist who wants massive attention and you think it's cooler to be hooking up with this creepy guy and this, oh, I'm going to save him, or I'm going to get in the press. Because dating the box boy at Safeway just is not enough to get attention on yourself and to feel like you're somebody. But dating a prisoner, yes. And so when, like Gypsy Rose Blanchard, she had two guys dating her when she was in prison. The one she married and dumped, and then the other one that now she has a baby with, right? What's wrong with those two guys? I'm going to say something's wrong with both of them. Because why are you having a relationship with this woman who is in prison, who was involved in a homicide? And I have my viewpoints on that. She was being held captive by a psychopath, Munchausen syndrome psychopath, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and she was in captivity for many years. So I give her a little bit of a break on why she wanted to get her mother killed, because so she could free herself. I don't go into all that again, but she's still messed up and she's in prison. Let her finish her time in prison. Let her go to her therapy in prison. Let her talk to a pastor or a religious person while she's in prison. Let her get out of prison and put her life back together. Then date her and away from the cameras. But if your kick is hooking up with somebody in prison, also, you're maybe manipulative because you know that person is needy. So you know that you can manipulate them, but probably they're manipulating you. They may be even better because they're the ones who probably might be a psychopath, So, but what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And then some people, going to prison is exciting for them. And for me, I only went to a prison once in my life, and it was to do a television show. And it was a high security prison for a woman who murdered her stepson. And I remember going through those doors, and it was creepy as hell. It's an interesting experience, but I wouldn't want to do it very often. But some people get off on that. They get off on, I'm going to prison. I'm going to the prison, and it's exciting. So I'm just going to say again, if you're hooked up with somebody in prison, you need to check out what's wrong with your brain. So these women, what's wrong with these women? All right. Lyle. So let's see. The first one here. Hold on a second. I'm trying to figure out what the order of these. Okay. Oh, okay. So Anna Erickson. See if this is the one. Okay. Anna was the first one, I think, to get married to Eric Menendez. So to keep in mind again, everybody thinks these guys, well, not everybody, people think these guys were horribly abused as children. They're perfectly wonderful people that maybe when they went on the spending spree, it was just a way to cover up their grief and everything. And they're really nice people. I say they're probably psychopaths. Maybe they were abused, or maybe they were manipulated. Maybe they turned into psychos. But I'd say probably they got personality disorders, and you probably don't want to hook up with them. But anyway, Anna starts writing Lyle in 1993 during his first trial. So she sees him at trial and becomes interested in him. It ended in mistrial. She moved to California to be near him the following year. She became a reliable presence at the months-long retrial that began in 1995. So she's like a fangirl. She's a fangirl. She's going to the trial. She loves it. She's going to be in there watching her boy, singing, I'm here for you, honey. And she's going to be part of this trial. And she's going to be seen going in and out of the courthouse. Yeah. She became a reliable presence, okay, and it resulted in convictions in 1996. They couldn't take their vows in person. However, Lyle instead taking the plunge. Oh, that's a real plunge. What does he bring into this relationship? Zero. He doesn't have a job, doesn't have a house, doesn't have money, doesn't have nothing. He's in jail. Took the plunge over a speakerphone. The groom in custody and the bride in the office of the defense attorney, Leslie Abramson. He seemingly hoped to be able to wed Anna in person once he knew where he'd end up. We do have a marriage proceeding. Okay, blah, 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 blah. There's a waiting list, but I don't see why I shouldn't be able to get married if he follows all the rules. Anyway, they didn't stay married. Anna divorced him in 2001 after, according to multiple reports from the time, she allegedly found out Lyle was exchanging letters with other women. Exactly. So he's got one, he's got other women on the line, and that's a symptom of psychopathy. So, and okay, maybe it's not true. I absolutely don't know, but this is not unlike what happens. I keep telling people when they go online and they're talking to somebody like in a chat room or something, and they think that guy's interested in them, that guy has nine things open at the same time. Or if it's whatever they're doing, he's got a whole screen full of different people. He'll comment here, they'll comment here. And all these women think they're the only one. They're not the only one. He's catfishing them all until he finds the one that's a sucker. But even if he gets the sucker, he can still keep playing the other ones because he can get money from them, or he's got backups or whatever the hell it is, or he's fantasizing. Who knows? But she dumped him. I said, then Lyle didn't rush into anything. Okay. So wait a minute. So that was, wait a minute. So he didn't rush. Okay. So Lyle didn't rush into anything, but then he marries this one, Rebecca Sneed. She's a journalist who should know better, but okay. So he didn't rush into anything. Okay. So he took his time. Reportedly, she was 33 at the time in November of 2003. He had known her for 10 years, first through letters and eventually from in-person visits. And then the ceremony took place at Mule Creek State Prison near Sacramento, where Lyle resided until he was reunited with Eric in 2018 in the Donovan Correctional Facility. Now, this is great. This is one of the things about these guys is they tell you this stuff, and it's amazing. It's like, see how we have this great relationship based on these things, like, and this is what he says. Let me take it. Our interaction tends to be very free of distractions. Well, what else what else can you do? But are you going to go to parties together? Or is the problem all? You try to interact with each other, but one of you has to go to work. They're doing different things as a baby. No, of course they're limited because you're in prison, dude. And we probably have more intimate conversations than most married spouses do, because that is all you have is conversations, because you have absolutely nothing else between the two of you except conversations. Who are distracted by life's events. See? Yes. At the time, Rebecca was living in Sacramento and was said to be visit weekly. We try and talk on the phone every day, sometimes several times a day. I have a very steady, involved marriage. How are you involving yourself in a marriage? I'd like to know. And that helps sustain me and brings a lot of peace and joy. It's a counter to the unpredictable, very stressful environment here. Rebecca, quote, put up with a lot, he acknowledged, but she has the courage to deal with the obstacles. It would be easier to leave, but I'm profoundly grateful that she doesn't. Okay, so what's wrong with you? So really, what in the hell is wrong with you, Rebecca? There's no people on the outside that would make better partners than a guy in prison that you never see and can do anything with? Is what's wrong with your psychology that this is what you get out of life? Well, then we have Tammy. So Tammy married Eric, I guess. Hold on. Eric, she married Eric, and she's written this book. They said we'd never make it. Well, because the reason you're making it is because you have psychological problems. That's why. But let's see what happened with Tammy. So Eric's wife, Tammy, now 62, was married to Chuck Sackerman when she first spied the young Menendez brother on TV and felt a special place in her heart for the 22-year-old murder defendant. She informed her husband she was going to write to Eric, and Chuck gave her his blessing. And then Eric said, I saw Tammy's letter and I felt something. I received thousands of letters, but this one I set aside. I got a feeling. So you can see how many people are foolish enough to keep doing this, writing stuff. And I wrote her back, and Tammy and I continued to correspond. I enjoyed writing to her. It was a slow friendship. It was special to me because it was not associated with the trial or the media. Tammy was someone not in the craziness. So she became his best friend. However, as Tammy detailed in her book, she doubted the brother's abuse defense at first. She doubted the abuse defense. But yet you're writing to a guy who killed his parents in a most brutal attack. Because what reason? If you doubted the abuse defense, why even bothering with this guy? So then she finds out that Chuck abused her teenage daughter from a previous relationship. And they also shared a 9-month-old daughter. He turned himself into the police and died by suicide 2 days later. So she can pick him. So after Chuck died, I reached out to Eric, and he comforted me. Of course he would. Our letters started taking a more serious tone. And then she finally met him in 1997 at Folsom State Prison. Eric had no idea what I looked like. I had only sent him a tiny 1x1 picture. But when he walked into the room, he was so full of life. He hopped down the stairs. It was like I was meeting an old friend. And they married in 1999, 2 years later, using a Twinkie as a wedding cake. They've been together ever since, and she acknowledges that lack of conjugal visits can be tough. You get a kiss when you come in and a kiss when you leave. You hold hands, and that part's very difficult. People don't understand. Eric said he tried not to think about what was then the likelihood he would never get out of prison. Well, how about her? Did you not want a real life? The guy committed a brutal homicide, regardless of the reasons for it. He took revenge on the parents, or he just wanted their money. And you thought this is a better life for you. This is all the value of yourself. Instead of having a real person on the outside that you can have a family with and spend time with. What is, again, go see a psychologist, something wrong with you. It's really sad. So anyway, on an optimistic note, Tammy has also taught him how to be a good husband. How's that? He's not being a husband. He's a prisoner. Oh my God. So anyway, and apparently also her daughter who had been attacked by this guy was attacked by the husband, the stepfather. She was in another state. So this woman, Tammy, moves all across the country to California and deserts her daughter's been sexually assaulted by her husband because she'd rather be near Eric. Comments? Oh Lord. The DA. Yes, he was up for. That's true. I was going to talk about that. He's up for re-election, and he did not get re-elected. He did not. So yeah, he cooks and cleans all of his own stuff. He's a great guy. He doesn't get any traffic tickets. He doesn't get drunk on Friday nights. He's not physically cheating on her with other women, although who knows how emotionally she's cheating on her. He's never hit her. I mean, you can put a list of things that he has not done wrong as a husband, and he'd probably beat out almost every other husband on the planet. It does help not to be around. Lord. Somebody, maybe someone should catfish these people into therapy. Yeah, there is something definitely wrong with a person who, now some people suffer, I don't know, they may suffer from some severe lack of self-esteem, so that anybody who pays attention to them, especially somebody who, again, is somebody who's somebody. I mean, Jimmy the Stock Boy doesn't increase your self-esteem if you don't have respect for stock boys. If you think a stock boy is just, I use that example not because anything wrong with stock boys, but just that it's an entry-level job and it's not a glamorous job. And so the guy doesn't have probably that fancy motorboat, he's quote a nobody. And a person who's suffering from self-esteem problems doesn't want to hook up with somebody who's considered a nobody, because then it reflects back on her. It's like, is that all you could get? But if you get a famous killer, people, they may not understand you, but they're in awe of you, because it's, I know this woman's name now. I know Tammy. I know who Tammy is. I guarantee you, if Tammy was hooked up with the stock boy, I'm not going to know who Tammy is, or the other wife. I'm not going to know anything about them, because why would I? But see, they're in the news. They're in the courtroom. They're in front of the camera. They're getting something out of this relationship, but it's because they have some issues, which may be narcissism, it may be some kind of self-esteem issue, massive quantity. But it's amazing. These guys in prison can always get somebody. And amazingly, a lot of times they get women who are like a journalist. I mean, we're not talking about a person maybe who also doesn't have much going. But sometimes they get people who, I think it's because they like the limelight, and that's why they can get women who are fairly good looking and have even reasonable jobs. Because those women are going to have to support themselves for the rest of their lives because their husbands aren't. Oh Lord. Here's a good point with evil. Yes, he may be very unfaithful in prison. That's true, with or without his consent. But yeah, just because you're in prison doesn't mean you're not having sex. And there's a bunch of ways to have sex in prison. One is, of course, with a male partner, if you're in a male prison. Secondly, you can have sex with, sometimes there's guards. And then third, fantasies. You can have sex by yourself, but your fantasy is not the wife you're married to, Tammy, and the other woman. It could be one of those other women you're writing to that you asked her to send a little picture of her. And in his little, whatever, he keeps his few little keepsakes in the prison. He's got pictures of 10, 20 different women he jacks off to, So he is cheating on you. Just too stupid to realize it. Yeah, I think that's true. The attention is worth its weight in gold to them. I think that really is true. But that's the Menendez brothers for you. What is this? I'm trying to see. Okay, sorry, I have to look. Oh, that's the wifey, and that's that. Okay, my little pictures. Oh, I mentioned this the other week. No, I didn't mention this one. So the woman on the left, she's the one that got murdered by her daughter, and then the granddaughter helped out with the disposal of grandma's body. So what happened was, oh my God. Okay, so a Maryland daughter who allegedly witnessed the aftermath of her mother murdering her grandmother testified that the defendant used a chainsaw, which I think, okay, which did she get off? I think she got that off of Amazon. So nothing like leaving a trace of, information. Defendant, I guess she might have gotten an overnight delivery too, because you don't want to wait too long. So I don't know if she had Amazon Prime or not. She testified the defendant used a chainsaw to cut up the remains and burn them on a grill before. So she was trying to cook the remains outside in the yard because they had a house. So I guess in the backyard. Maybe is there a barbecue there? Anyway. And she used some gas on there too. So, and she set a small fire that neighbors helped put out before the firefighters arrived. So she wasn't very good as she was burning down the place. Candace Craig, 46, is on trial for murdering her mother, Margaret Craig, 71. The defendant's 21-year-old daughter, Celia Hardy, charged with accessory after the fact to murder, testified on Wednesday against her mother as part of her plea agreement. Yeah, she's for helping her mother cover up the crime of killing her grandmother and chopping her into pieces and burning her on the barbecue. She's going to get maybe 3 months. So Margaret Craig was killed at her home in Hyattsville, Washington, suburb. Hardy reportedly testified she heard her grandmother scream, and her mother told her something had fallen in the basement and not to go into her grandmother's room. The following day, when she was home alone, she went into the room and discovered her grandmother's body in a bin with a trash bag over her head. Candace Craig did not tell her daughter what happened to her grandmother, but said they had to get rid of the DNA by using acid, burning the body, or chopping it up. Days later, with grilling supplies bought at Home Depot. So now they also went to Home Depot to buy. So you get, if you really want to do somebody in at some point, here's a good piece of information for you. You may want to make sure that you buy something like a couple years earlier when you're out of town with some cash, leaving no trail, and store that stuff until the day arrives you need it. But when you go on Amazon to buy your chainsaw and you go down to Home Depot to buy your stuff, it's pretty much, you're being seen everywhere. And there's a paper trail, shall we say. So they got grilling supplies at Home Depot, including a can of gasoline, because you don't usually grill with gasoline. Craig started to burn her mother's remains on the grill, trying to cover the smell by also cooking chicken. Because that'll really work. It's like, that chicken doesn't smell right. Anyway, but started a fire that prompted neighbors to arrive to help extinguish the flames and put out a call to the fire department. But the body was not discovered then. The following morning, mother and daughter brought the remains back inside. I don't know how. It must have had her cut up enough pieces and only had a couple on the grill that nobody saw this stuff. They brought the remains back inside after they had time to cool off. You don't want to bring them in smoking. Craig cut up her mother with she hadn't finished cutting her up. I'm not quite sure what was on the grill. Anyway, Craig cut up her mother with a chainsaw in the basement, her daughter testified. The remains were stuffed in trash bags. Officers discovered the remains while responding to the home for a welfare check. After a 911 caller advised he had not communicated with Margaret Craig for a couple of days and was worried about her welfare. Candace Craig answered the door and allowed the patrol officers access to the home to search for Margaret Craig. And when they entered the basement, they immediately smelled the odor of decomposition. They saw blood and tissue on the floor near 3 white plastic trash bags. One had what appeared to be brain matter. Authorities said they also found a knife on the basement floor and a chainsaw with human remains on it. They found 67 segments of human remains, but not every piece of the body. So, unbelievable. And so, I guess a mom is going away to prison for life, but daughter gets a slap on the hand for not. First of all, it's a daughter's story. This is the other thing. It's the daughter's story. She turned on her mom, but it's the daughter's story that she had nothing to do with the murder. How do we know that? Again, she claims, and we do not know. And supposedly heard a scream from her grandmother's room, but didn't bother to go say, "Grandma, are you okay?" And her mother told her, "Don't go in that room." Well, it's her grandmother's room. Why wouldn't you go in and check on grandma? You're an adult. Why would you, find that the next day? So, again, can we trust the daughter? No, but she's going to get 3 months and she'll be out. But I would say her dating life should go downhill unless somebody isn't bothered by the fact that she helped grill her grandmother. It's like, it's like, what do you do? It's like your first date. Okay, truth or dare. What's the worst thing you've ever done? Okay. I grilled my grandmother. Oh my God. Well, there wasn't a double murder. There's only one murder, but there are 2 people involved in it. So yeah, you want to be sure they're the one that turns on the other one first. That is true. The pressure cooker method. I don't know that they probably needed the chipper. Always with the grilling. Oh my God, the poor woman. I mean, being a grandmother myself, I certainly would hope that one day my daughter and my granddaughter aren't in the backyard barbecuing me. I mean, something must be. I'm always kind of amazed that theoretically, if you've got that kind of daughter, that's a seriously psychopathic daughter. Now, even if she killed her accidentally, doing what she did to her over days, methodically, on very badly, mind you, the woman had no talent in getting rid of her body. But if that's the kind of person she is, she must have been like that for years. And if I have that kind of daughter, and I'll give you this great advice, not on Dear Profile Pat, but right here. If that's your kind of daughter, run away. Run away. Don't spend time. Don't live in her house. Don't have her live in your house. You don't want that daughter in there. I mean, if that's the way she is, bail, because she might have been a cute baby, but now she's got a chainsaw and a grill, Oh my God. It's a good alternative for paying for a funeral. Well, that is true. That is true. Oh my God. It's just mom and daughter, bring your daughter to crime day. Now, somebody's going to say we're being very rotten on this channel for making jokes about such a horrible crime. And it is a horrible crime. I mean, the actual murder may have been quick, hopefully. And it's just one of these things which you look at human depravity, you look at the way human beings behave, and the way they behave in an entire family that you would help your mom do that to your grandmother, unless that grandmother were the most evil. And according to people, it didn't seem to be that she was the most evil, horrible person. Who helps? I mean, but my daughter. Let's say I'm trying to think if I was younger. When I was younger, I'm trying to think how this would work. Yeah, I can't imagine if my mother killed my grandmother. The next thing I'd be on the phone to the police. You're going to protect your mother in those circumstances? Call the police ASAP. Get the hell out of the house. Call the police and say my mother murdered my grandma. But help your mother go do all that? Seriously? I don't know. Just unbelievable. Yeah. So she's going to get a slap on the wrist and go on. So there you go. Let's see. I'm trying to look at my pictures here. Hell. Okay, I think that's the one I just showed her. Yeah, that's okay. Going to the next picture. This fellow. All right. This is an interesting case. As now one of these cases where let's see, where am I at here? It's happened in Alabama. Oh, here we go. Alabama sheriff asked the FBI. Hold on a second. Come on. My screen is freezing. Can we not do that? Here we go. Okay. So this happened in Alabama, and this fellow, it's in slow-mo. Why are we doing this? I'm going to take another drink of this. This actually is leftover michelada from, we were at a Mexican food truck last night, and they make micheladas there. And it's like a Bloody Mary, but with lots of Mexican spices and beer, because they put cerveza in this. So we couldn't drink it. It was like this big, so I didn't drink it all last night. So I'm having it for lunch. It's really good. I like it a lot. Anyway, okay, so here we go. So down in Alabama, this man was found hanging. And the title is Black Man Found Hanging in Alabama. And local sheriff asked the FBI to investigate the death of this man. And why did the sheriff ask that? Now, here's the situation. FBI is investigating the death of a black man in Alabama who was found hanging in an abandoned house following a request from the local sheriff amid fears among community members who accused law enforcement of longstanding unchecked misconduct. They found Dennoriss Richardson, 39 years old, in a rural part of Colbert County, miles away from his home in Sheffield, a city of approximately 10,000 people near the Tennessee River. They ruled his death a suicide. Now, as I've always pointed out, most of the time, 99% of the time, a person who is hanging, it's death by suicide. It's very rarely a homicide, or because it's just very unusual. And most of the time, you're not going to find any damages to the body either. So it's pretty obvious there wasn't a fight going on. Nobody wasn't forced. The rope wasn't thrown around his neck, and he was hauled up there. But so they ruled it as suicide. But Richardson's wife, Lee Richardson, has said that is not true, explaining her husband did not leave a note, which most do not, and had no connection to the house where he was found. I'm going to say in parentheses that she knows of. Instead, the 40-year-old fears her husband's death was related to a lawsuit he filed against the local police department in February. Okay. And we're going to find out why he did that. Dennoriss Richardson, who coached kids in baseball and football. And here's where we hear about, he's a great guy. And, I've had so many wonderful coaches for my kids. And, you know them from the coaching field, and they're fun there, and they're, and look at he's with these cute kids. He has 5 kids, and aren't they cute? Yeah. All right. He alleged he was assaulted, denied medical attention, sprayed with tear gas, and shot with a taser while in jail. But the jail issue is interesting. While in jail, if you're a soccer coach, football coach, why are you in jail? Did you do something, or did somebody, was this wrong? You're wrongly arrested. What was the issue? But she doesn't go and explain that. Lee Richardson said she is not accusing a specific person, but is adamant her husband didn't kill himself. Sorry. She is not alone in her belief. Widespread skepticism about Richardson's death underscores deep-seated distrust of local law enforcement in Colbert County, in a region where hanging invokes a long history of state-sanctioned lynchings for Black people. Residents of the county allege a pattern of excessive force among local law enforcement. So what they're trying to indicate here is that because he filed this thing against the police department, they went and lynched him. I'm going to say that, quite frankly, the last thing you want to do if you want to kill somebody to get them out of your way, where people think that it's got a history of racism, the last thing you do is lynch somebody. You just make it look like a street crime, shot, stabbed, but you don't lynch them. You know what I mean? You bring in trouble where you don't need to. People don't do things that cause. That's like I say with certain crimes. The Madeleine McCann case in Portugal. People say, they found this kid who was, the vacationing Brits, and they got the cute little girl there, and you kidnap that cute little girl there. You bring in a mass of people when all you have to do is go down the road where some very poor people are at, some people who live under a bridge who do drugs, and there's a little 3-year-old girl there that's just as damn cute. Take that kid. You're not going to start an international incident, for God's sakes. That would be stupid. Well, the police aren't going to go in there and lynch the guy because it's going to start an incident. So they're not going to do that. They're going to find some other way to get rid of him if they're doing that. So anyway, the sheriff wants the FBI to come in and investigate because he says, we feel confident what our findings are, but we feel like we're doing this to give family more peace of mind. Also because of being accused of killing them. Okay, so, and it said that FBI is aware of Dennoriss Richardson's death and is reviewing the allegations of criminal misconduct. And of course, the NAACP is involved in this. And they say that they're concerned because of the lynching issue. 359 reported lynchings between 1877 and 1943. But, we're talking again over almost 100 years ago. And so things that happened 100 years ago aren't happening today, but it carries on, and people still have this thing where they say, oh, that guy was lynched. Anyway, so this Marvin Long, a 57-year-old guy, grew up in the area. He's also skeptical about the suicide ruling, and he's afraid of the police. All right. Now, Long sued. Okay, no, this is another guy who filed a complaint against the police, and so I don't know what happened there, but he claimed that he was dragged and all that stuff. So they're talking about some police misconduct here. Lots of stuff about police misconduct. Okay, Lee Richardson has known her husband since he was 17. She remembers Dennoriss, known affectionately as Nana, as a warm father to their 5 children. But she also said his fear of police was not new. He was scared at a young age. Richardson said that after filing the lawsuit, her husband was frequently stopped by police. In those months, he was trying to stay out of the way. The mayor said that he had come to his office at least once to express concerns he was being profiled. But now that he's a coach, a wonderful guy, now let's find out the truth. Court records show Dennoriss Richardson had a long history of run-ins with law enforcement. But the majority of those charges in the federal and state courts don't stick. Well, that's often a problem these days. Dennoriss Richardson pleaded guilty to drug possession in 2006 and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In more than 15 years since then, court records showed he was arrested at least 6 additional times by the Sheffield Police Department for charges ranging from disorderly conduct to robbery to assault. None of those charges, except for a traffic violation for expired tags, resulted in a conviction. Now, I don't know why that is, because he didn't do those things or just because. In the same week that Richardson filed his lawsuit against the department, he was charged with trafficking meth. He had been arrested in a house where drugs allegedly were found. He was out on bond when he died. All right, let's look at what was found in the house. Okay, $1,700 worth of cash, 35 grams of crystal meth, 14 grams of cocaine, 20 oxycodone pills, marijuana, and a firearm. And there's the stuff they found. He got arrested for drug trafficking. And he's been in jail for drugs before. And it keeps getting arrested, but it's very hard sometimes to make things stick in this day and age. So he gets arrested with, and this seems like he's found with the stuff in a house that is a drug trafficking house. And he may be going down for a really long time because they may have him cold this time. And there's also a weapon, which he's a felon. He's not allowed to have a gun. So he's out on bond, and I think he probably, I don't know why he was in that particular place, but that he killed himself, maybe saying, okay, I don't want to go to prison for the rest of my life. My life sucks, so he killed himself. That's what I would think is more likely. However, he said that his attorney said he stood up against the police for police misconduct and he believed in transparency and accountability. But let me tell you something. When people say, well, he just keeps getting in confrontations with police, gets arrested over and over and over again. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people in Alabama who are Black or of any race, and they don't have constant run-ins with the police because they're not doing anything illegal. It's a hell of a trick. But if you don't do anything illegal, most of the time they're just going to leave you alone. Maybe you get a traffic violation. That's it. And so, again, I'm not saying there's no racism any place, and maybe there is police misconduct. So I don't want to get into a big argument over that. But this guy has a record, and he was caught just recently as a drug trafficker. That's not a guy you want in your neighborhood. That's not a guy you want around your kids, because the stuff that he is selling is going to children and teens, and he's harming the community. So I to go with he's the perfect, most wonderful guy in the world, and he was just wrongly profiled. I'm going to say it. I doubt that. So, but if you don't get the rest of information, a lot of times you won't see that what the actual facts are. I've never heard. I don't hear of any lynchings in the U.S. No, lynching does not happen in the U.S. I mean, if there was a case, it would have. I can't even remember one. I've seen claims of them, but they're not true. So can it happen? But no. I mean, no. It's a very extremely rare thing if it ever even happened. Now, some people say lynching is not necessarily with just a rope. That lynching can be a racist attack against somebody. The closest I can come to that recently would be. They got convicted. I can't remember the name of the case. I did talk about it, but I forgot the name of it. Where there was a guy who was stealing crap from people in the neighborhoods, and he was a little thief and burglar, and he was running around the neighborhood stealing crap. And a couple of guys got fed up with him. They were coming down the street, and they saw the guy stealing stuff, and the guy ran, and they went after him with guns and cornered him and ended up shooting him. I can't remember. Did he shoot at them? I can't remember. But they got convicted, and rightly so. But how racist it was questionable. They were pissed at a guy who was stealing. It just happened to be the guy who was stealing was black and they were white. But what they did was not, you can't do that. You can't chase a guy down the road with guns and corner him and not expect him to, try to do something to save himself. And then they killed him. So they got convicted for a good reason. They can't do that. You can't make yourself police. And that guy, the guy who was, even if he's a thief, had to fear for his life. And why wouldn't he fear for his life? These people are chasing him down with a pickup truck with guns, Yeah, that would be as close as I can come recently, or something like that. But even then, I don't think it was a racial incident. I think it was an issue of a couple of overly aggressive guys getting fed up with neighborhood theft. So, who acted inappropriately for sure. So they paid the price. Vigilante justice. Thank you. That's basically what it was, and it was not good. But no, a lot of this is highly exaggerated, and there are claims that. But again, hanging. It's a very common way of suicide. So, it's if this happens, it's extraordinarily rare, and so. But it's always brought up, because that's the times we live in. That race is brought up a lot, and I just did the Tomla Horsford case, and it was claimed they basically said the same thing. A black woman goes to a party of 7 white women, and she gets lynched in the basement. Somebody said she got lynched in the basement, and then they faked her having a fall. It's all nonsense. It's ridiculous. It was an accidental death, and those were her friends. So nobody did anything to her. But out in the internet world, and out in certain groups that want to promote stuff. It gets pushed around a lot more than is necessary, shall we say? Arbery. Yes, thank you, Ahmaud Arbery. I don't remember that guy's name. Thank you. I love it when people know stuff that I better just pull it up here, just because I want to clear up that issue of what happened there. Ahmaud Arbery, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. He was a 25-year-old black man murdered during a racially motivated hate crime. While jogging, he wasn't. That is not what happened. Okay, 3 white men later claimed to the police they assumed he was a burglar, which was pretty good evidence thereof, by the way. They pursued Arbery in their trucks for several minutes, using the vehicle to block his path as he tried to run away. 2 of the men were armed, and one vehicle, and the other one, a neighbor, was in another vehicle. After overtaking Arbery, Travis entered his truck, pointing his weapon at Arbery. Arbery approached Travis and a physical altercation ensued, resulting in Travis fatally shooting Arbery. They got convicted, which they should have been convicted. But this was made into a racial case, which I just don't think it was, because I don't think Arbery was just jogging. Sorry, I think that's not accurate. I haven't done this case in a long time, but they can't do vigilante justice either. You don't get to do that. And could they have been racist? Yeah. But I also don't know that if it was a white guy who they saw stealing stuff and thought, hey, he can't do this in our neighborhood, and was running away, they wouldn't have confronted him either, just as well. So, yeah, he was okay. So originally they called 911 to report a slender, 6-foot-tall black man with short hair wearing red shorts and a white shirt who was trespassing on the site of a house under construction. And they saw him. So they've been having a lot of burglars and break-ins in the area. And so a lot of people go, it says here, no evidence has emerged of Arbery committing burglaries or thefts. But there's a lot of thefts off of construction sites, because there's tools and stuff that can be stolen. So that's just so such stuff was happening. The guy, the claim was that maybe he was just checking out the construction site for going like on a sightseeing tour. So all I'm saying is that there was the guys got convicted rightly, but I don't know that it was a hate crime or anything. But you can't do what they did, because even if Arbery was a thief, you still can't kill him. I mean, all you can do is call the police and tell them it looks like this guy is burglarizing stuff, and we've seen there's a lot of thefts around here. Can you come out? And even if the police don't come out, it's problematic. But you can't do that. You can't do that. So we do not know, Lady Jane. That's the problem. they couldn't prove he was stealing at that moment. This is where things get confused. That because he didn't have any items on him when he was killed, it doesn't mean he wasn't intending to take the items when he was on the property he shouldn't have been in, where they were having thefts. I'm not saying he was stealing. I'm saying we also can't prove he wasn't stealing. I'm just talking about what's in the minds. I'm talking about what's in the minds of the guys who killed him. All right. Because his behaviors they profiled his behaviors. And unfortunately, there are times when, let's say, for example, let me give you a good example of how the things could be. My ex-husband is black, right? And we lived in a 250-year-old house in a 99.9% white neighborhood. So there were only 2 black families, and we were one of them. Okay, so, or at least a multiracial family. Now, if my husband forgot the keys to his house, let's say there've been burglaries in the neighborhood, and people had somebody breaking into their house, and they see my husband, let's say they just moved in next door and they don't even know a black guy lives in that house. And they see a guy prying open a window and trying to climb in the house. They're going to assume the guy's breaking into the house. Now, let's say you were a white guy doing the same thing. It still looks like a burglar breaking into the house. So, and it turns out it's the homeowner. And I think that did happen. I think wasn't that the guy up in also with Obama had this beer thingy with. The problem is, it isn't that Arbery was necessarily a criminal, but his behaviors were suspicious at the time that these people saw him. Arbery did not deserve to be killed. Absolutely not. The crime was a murder. It was an absolute 100% murder. The guys were wrong, and that's why they're in prison. But sometimes what's made up to be something that it may not be is my point. And so we have a situation where a lot of times, again, claims are made where we do not have proof that those claims are true. And so it just bothers me when that's done, because I like truth. I like transparency. And so the guy down in Alabama right now, he's a drug trafficker as far as I can see. And yet he's being promoted as, a guy who's just being wrongly profiled by police. Well, I don't think that's probably true. And I'm glad the FBI is coming in to review to be sure that it's a suicide and not a homicide. I'm glad they're going to do that, because I think the police chief wants that. He's like, what are we supposed to do? We looked at it and it looked like a suicide to us. We didn't see any evidence that he was, there was a bunch of people. He wasn't, no bruises on his body or anything. So we think he committed suicide, and now they're accusing us of killing him. So, it's just, again, let's stick with the evidence. And let's call the thing the way that needs to be called. The 3 guys who killed Arbery committed a crime. It wasn't proven that Arbery was committing a crime, but his behavior was suspicious, which set the 3 guys off. And I don't know about Arbery's actual. Remember we're dealing with the media. Well, the media doesn't let us know a lot of things, and so then you don't get the full story because you're getting the media version thereof. But he was in a place he was trespassing. He was clearly trespassing. That is not a question. That she got shot for trespassing is a whole other matter. I can't remember, Christy, whether he had the prior thefts. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've looked at the case. I probably knew at the time. Let's see. I don't know if it really says anything about his past here. But again, we're talking about the media, and we're always a little, let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's anything here. No. I can't find it here. But again, there's a lot of times when you have a case that's very high profile and has a racial component to it, there's so much stuff that is people are unable to separate from facts and evidence to their personal feelings on racial climate and all that kind of stuff. So it's difficult. And as I point out over and over again, there are crimes where somebody gets killed because of race, but there are crimes where the race has nothing to do with it. The same thing is true if a person's gay or as trans. They get killed not because they're trans and somebody hates trans people, but just maybe because there were other reasons to kill the person. They just happen to be trans. So the question is a person be killed because of that or just in spite of that? And a lot of times the agendas in the media will always want to push the thing that's more money making, shall we say, more money making. So they were, I don't know if they're convicted. Well, let's see what it says here. Okay, let me see if I can find the charges. This became a huge case. Evidence presented by the case. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, let's see. This one's a very long article. What did the defense say? Good Lord, there's the federal trial. One count of each of interference with rights, a civil rights interference, counts of kidnapping, which kidnapping is correct. Now, wait a minute, let's see here. So there are claims here that he said that he had not set out that day to murder or harm anybody for racist reasons, but he also made assumptions about Arbery due to his race, and that race played a part in his decision to chase Arbery with a gun. Now, this was an agreement. There was an agreement in exchange for guilty pleas. And see, this becomes problematic again. So he agreed to say that race had something to do with his decision, but agreed to, and it's the truth, are two different things. They offer him a deal because they want to close this thing down in a way that is publicly acceptable. He may just say what he says because that got him a lesser sentence. So it's very hard to say. I mean, it gets very complicated, but it's just all I would do is say is when you see these cases come up, you have to look at them and say, what is the evidence here? And in this particular case of the guy down in Alabama, he does have a long history of issues with drugs, and he's been in prison, and he was just caught with those drugs in a drug house. So are the police after him just wrong because they're just constantly after him? Is that what it is? The same thing was said with Stephen Avery, that the police set him up with the death of woman who was convicted of murdering because he was getting a payout, a big payout for being wrongfully convicted prior. But the police department wasn't paying that personally. The officers weren't paying that personally. They're not going to set this guy up, make him a fall guy, murder a woman, then put the woman on his property and burn up her body in his burn pit, all to set him up because he's getting a big payday. That's nonsense. But then those are claims. So you have to watch out for claims. Okay. Well, it is true that we don't know that he wasn't stealing. We just don't know that he was stealing. And even if he was stealing, they still had no right to run him down and essentially kidnapping. Kidnapping is when you prevent people from leaving. They kidnapped him and they murdered him. They shot him. Supposedly in an altercation. They weren't planning to shoot him, but they were trying to get They were trying to do a citizen's arrest to get the police to take him in. That's what they were doing, a citizen's arrest. That ended up with them shooting him. And they paid the price for doing what was stupid, very stupid. But I just don't know that it has as much of a racial component as it ended up being so big in the news about this was a racial crime, a race crime, a hate crime, when not necessarily, but it is also possible that somebody sees a person who they link with crime. And in this particular case, these men who went after Arbery, seeing a young black man in a location he shouldn't be at, in an area there was a lot of crime problems. And if they link crime with with people who are black as opposed to people who are white in their area, then they are profiling him. But that's what human beings do in general. So it could be people profile in different ways. This is always my favorite example of how profiling. I've done it before. I'll do it again. You're walking down. Let's say as a white female, I'm walking down the street, and I get to the end of the street and I have to go right or left. On the right side are some white men, all tatted up. They're tatted up. There's 5 of them. They're all tatted up, standing there like this. The other side of the street, there's 5 black men, all dressed in suits because they're Jehovah's Witnesses. Which way do I go? Believe me, I'm going to the Jehovah's Witness way. I'm going to the 5 black men and not the 5 white men, just because I'm white. And so I profiled them immediately. I said, guys in tats, dangerous. Guys in suits with pamphlets in their hands, not dangerous. It would not be a racial thing either way. It's just, but I would profile them. And I would profile, I profiled down in Nicaragua when I had to get a taxi. And I was told, don't get in taxis because they're very dangerous here. And I couldn't get home. I couldn't get back where I was going. And I was stuck. I had to take a taxi. So I looked for the oldest taxi driver I could find. I didn't want to get in a taxi with a guy who was in his 30s. But I found one who looked 70. I thought my chances with a 70-year-old are far better than chances with a 30-year-old. I profiled them, thinking the younger one, it could be more likely to be somebody who might assault me or steal from me or get you might be a gangbanger and get other gang people in there. And this older guy is probably, the chances of him being dangerous are less. Now, I could be totally wrong. That young guy could be a wonderful, sweet fellow. It probably was, who would take me right to my destination without a problem. Because I've had a lot of young, sweet fellows in Uber and stuff take me places. And that older guy could be a rapist, totally could be a rapist. So I could have made a bad choice by, in my head as a human being, in that situation, making a quick profile from what I knew in general. And you only can do things generalizing. So if you're in an area where the perception for certain people there is that crime is being more committed by young African-American men than young white men, could be wrong, but that's your perception. And they see this guy, they think, oh, that guy's stealing. Is it racist, the profiling, or is it? See, it gets very tricky like that. And so, I personally never like to see things come down as being, I don't like the motive to be put that way. In my opinion, they deserve to go to prison for what they did, regardless of the color of the guy or their internal thinking. The fact is, you can't do that. You can't, regardless of what he's actually doing, unless he's raping somebody. You can stop a rape, you can stop a murder. But if a guy grabs something at your lawn, guy steals stuff right from your doorstep, like your packages that Amazon just dropped off, you can't chase that sucker down, corner him with a gun and try to make a citizen's arrest and accidentally shoot him and walk away. You can't do it because you can't do that. That you don't have that right. That's not self-defense. So they went to prison rightly, but I think it was the whole scenario over it, I think, was just blown up and unnecessary and unprovable. But when people accept things, a lot of times they will then confess to things just because it's going to get me a better deal at this point. So anyway, he might be. See, you don't always make the right choices. That's for sure. I mean, we all profile every single moment of our lives. We profile people we meet. Do I want to be friends with them? People go to a bar and profile the person and say, I think he's safe enough to go home with and have sex with a complete stranger? Probably not a wise move, no matter what. But that's how people get killed too. If you take a look at, Mr. Goodbar, that movie, Searching for Mr. Goodbar, was that the name of it? But you know, you go to a bar and you get a handsome fellow. Woman goes to a bar and he's got a guy's in a suit with a tie, really nice. It looks like an upstanding guy. Maybe says he's a lawyer. You go home and then he's a serial killer. It's like, oops, shouldn't have gone with him. And maybe right next to him was a guy who was more modestly dressed, and he's a house painter. But you turned him down for the guy in the suit. And he got killed by the guy in the suit. You should have gone with the painter. Painter was a better guy. Yeah. But we all profile every single moment of our lives. Well, I think that's always been true. Don't think of the consequences. Well, the problem is people don't think that things are going to, they think they're doing this and it spirals into that. In this case, I don't think they were trying to kill Arbery. I think they were trying to do a stupid citizen's arrest and it got out of control. And Arbery saw people pointing guns at him and essentially pushing him into a corner. He's freaking out. The claim was I think reached for the gun or something. And there was a struggle and he got shot. But regardless, I don't think that was the intention, but that is what it ended up being, because you can't kidnap people with guns. But it's the same thing as if you go into a store to rob it, and you bring guns with you, and your guns are there to scare the people into giving you the money. Your intention is not to kill them. But while you're doing that, the guy suddenly reaches for the police, does something, and you freak out and you shoot him, and he dies. You get murder one on that. You killed somebody in the commission of a crime. And you could say, I didn't mean to do it. And people that will say many times, well, I know that kid, he was just robbing the store. He's just trying to scare them, and he screwed up, and he accidentally killed the shop owner. Well, yeah, but the shop owner's dead, and his family's lost their father. The kids don't have a dad anymore. The wife has lost her husband. Now they lost their business. All horrible consequences for everybody all the way around, because you decided it was okay. And remember I talked about the line? This is my favorite I'm going to do a shirt with the line. The big line. A small line would be saying, hey, buddy, what you doing over there? That would be, and then you decide to go up and say, are you stealing stuff? Maybe you crossed a thinner line. Maybe that's not so smart to do. You go and kidnap the dude with guns, you cross the big line. If you go into a store with a gun to hold it up, you've crossed that big line. Sorry if it ends up badly for you and in prison the rest of your life because you killed someone you didn't mean to kill, but you crossed the big line. You're criminal. If you're not criminal, you don't cross the big line. So, that's the problem. And we have the fellow down in Alabama. It appears he is a drug trafficker. He crossed a pretty big line for that. He's got a weapon that he's not allowed to have because he's a felon. He's distributing drugs. He's transporting drugs. He's crossed a big line, and he ended up getting arrested. And I don't think he was probably murdered. I think he probably did commit suicide. But let the FBI do their job and figure it out. But people get involved in criminal activities, bad things happen. All right, let me see if there's one more thing I want to do before I head out to my course today. I figure out what these pictures are again. My God, it's hard to see these pictures. Oh, this is just one I wanted to mention. This poor Spanish girl. She I think she was Spanish. Hold on a second. I think she was okay. She's a student. And I've seen this happen more than once. This is in Palma, Spain. Investigators believe a missing student was likely crushed in a trash truck and incinerated after she passed out in a garbage bin. This 24-year-old Agustina Rubini Medina went missing about 3 weeks ago after she disappeared following a night out with friends in Palma, Spain. And that's a very sad thing also. Your friends should never, ever leave people to walk home alone. That's one of the most dangerous things for people, especially women. Everybody should go home together. There should be a group of you. Make sure they get into their house or stay together at a house, whatever. So she disappeared following a night out with friends in Palma, Spain. The National Police of Spain now believe Medina passed out while digging through a large trash bin after she possibly dropped her phone inside it after a night of drinking on October 3rd. It was reported the police theorized that she was then picked up by the garbage truck and crushed to death before her body was dumped into an incinerator. They reconstructed her movements with the phone data. The 24-year-old had been last seen around midnight by an employee of a shop located near the bus stop, who told authorities that Medina was visibly intoxicated and had stopped to purchase a bag of chips. The publication reported that the investigators found a handbag and blouse belonging to Medina by the trash bin. And I'm not sure where they found the blouse. I don't know quite what that means. That's weird. And the handbag. They were able to rule out she ever took the bus. Then they showed her phone remained at the trash bin for about half an hour before it went to the incineration plant and it went dead. So they found the human remains there, and that's what they think. They theorize. Okay, so supposedly she was a small woman with low tolerance for alcohol, and she was also taking medication. Now, I'm not sure what the blouse by the thing is in the purse, but this is what I think the police are theorizing. She's staggering along. She's got her phone in her hand, and she leans up against this trash thing for whatever reasons, because she's falling, and she drops her phone. And she goes, ah, crap. She puts down her phone. I don't know if the blouse was on her or it was an extra blouse, or I don't know what they mean by that. And so some people will say, well, if that's true, then somebody probably attacked her and threw her body in there. But they had just seen her buying the chips. The shop was there, and the shop was here. The bus was there. I guess the bin was right there. So the chances of somebody attacking her there and putting her body in the bin does not seem reasonable. But that you drop your phone, you try to get the phone, and you crawl up on that thing. It's like people falling off of the damn deck. You crawl up there and you reach down, and you fall into the trash bin. Now, people say, why didn't you just get out of the trash bin? Well, I did one case for a family where their son ended up dead in a trash bin after a night of drinking, same thing. And the positional asphyxiation issue is really problematic on people passing out. So if she's very drunk and she passes out at that point, you can end up basically in a position where you're just not getting enough air into your body, and maybe there's something comes over on your face, and so it blocks air, maybe, whatever. And you die positional asphyxiation. Your body just sits in that place, and then eventually just the trash truck comes along, and that's that. Probably dead before the body went in the trash truck. But it's amazing how many people, I can't tell you, I've read more about people falling into trash bins than you believe. And sometimes I guess a body could have been put there. And the case I was looking at for a family, they thought his friends had put him in the thing. And I was able to trace the things, and the position he was in, it made total sense that he fell in and died. But here we have another case of that. So it does happen. But it's just, so she wasn't, let's see. I don't know about that one. It was Dustin Pearson happened in Montana. Arrest was just made because I found DNA in a beer tent. Oh, I don't know that case. I'll have to look it up. Oh, that's a good point too. You might have taken off a long sleeve blouse. Very good. See, this is where you think different. I probably would have just rooted it with my clothes and my blouse on and ruined it. But you're right. She might have gone, oh, I don't want to go in the trash. I want to have, take this off my arms. I don't want to ruin my blouse. It's interesting. People can do a very stupid thing that gets them killed, but at the same time, they're doing things. It doesn't mean their brains aren't functioning in some way. And so they'll do certain things, and it looks like, well, yeah, she could have had a little whatever underneath, and she just, oh, this is my silk blouse. I don't want to mess that up. Took it off just as she'd go in there. And that type of stuff happens. I just want to point it out that it happens. And people never think it happens, but it happens. And I see this every once in a while. I see a case of somebody in a trash bin. Oh, really? Is that true? Little old ladies fell in trash cans, cleaning them in the UK when they first came out. Interesting. Yeah. Don't drink and dumpster dive. That's true. I'm glad you're interested in profiling, and here you can do some sorts of it. Let's see. Oh, the Justin. I don't know that case. Hold on a second. I'm trying to find out about the other case. Oh, that's your first hangout. Hi, welcome. The murder of Dustin, who everyone thought was attacked by a bear. Okay, now I'm going to, okay, I don't know this case, but I'll tell you what, I would like to understand this case because now you're saying somebody actually, arrest was made because DNA was found on a beer can. It wasn't beer DNA. Okay, I'm taking a picture of the name. Hold on a second. I don't know the case, so I'll try to look it up and maybe do it for the next, go over what happened in the next hangout. I'm not sure how they would not know the difference between a human attack and a bear attack. I don't know. It's interesting. So I'll be curious to look at that case. That sounds fascinating. Let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about before I disappear. I was going to do that case. That's too complicated. That's too complicated. I'll do that next time. Yeah, I'll do that next time. So I have to go sing. I need to go sing. So sorry. I don't know. Some of you are happy I moved the time to 12 o'clock, which I usually do later in the afternoon. But I moved it because I have issues of timing. So, but sometimes it's nice to move it so that gives people who don't have a chance to come at certain times at another time. So it's good and it's bad. So I never can predict. Dustin Kierson sounds very Minnesotan. Oh, thank you, Christy. Don't forget to hit like and check out my other channel. Yeah, I'm trying to get it going now so I can keep it going. And I enjoy doing the advice thing. So, but it's as usual when you start a YouTube channel, it's pretty miserable because you're working for free for so long. And at a certain point, you're like, I can't keep working and not have something come back from that channel that I'm putting all the effort into. So I'm hoping if I can get it to the monetized stage, but it takes 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours before you get to monetized stage. And I was able to get profiling with Pat Brown monetized within 4 months, but it took me another year and a half to make more than like $300 a month. And let me tell you, working full-time for $300 a month is not fun, and it was during COVID, which is the only reason I could put up with that. But like my son has a YouTube channel. He's up to about 680, I think, subscribers, but he's been there for 3 years, over 3 years. And he hasn't been able to get monetized yet. And it's a bummer for him because he would really like to do this as a full-time job. But, most people can't make a channel even bring them in pocket change, So it's hard to do. But if you do start a channel or a second channel, you at least want to make it viable. So I'm going to try and make, Dear Profiler Pat viable so that I can keep doing it because I do enjoy it and people like to get my advice. And, I think I'm better than Dear Abby. So there you go. No, I don't know. I don't give out his channel name here. No, I don't do that. It is a political channel. I don't like to put politics in with this show, that kind of, so that always gets bad. That always goes badly. And so that's very nice of you to offer, but he's going to have to make it on his own. And so he will. Lord. Oh, that's cool. Oh, thank you. Thanks for your video, Dear Profiler Pat. We've reconnected. Interesting. Huh? Take care. You miss that chick so much. Well, as I said, you got to examine the whole situation, man. I wish you the best of luck. There are occasions, I will say this, there are occasions where, in spite of good advice, people don't take. There are rare occasions where, in the long run, it turns out it's one of those things that you go, hey, I never took that advice. And for whatever reasons, we're happily together 20 years later. Maybe that could happen to you. But yeah, I go with probabilities. And so, usually when you put yourself in a situation that is really a little risky, a lot risky, usually doesn't turn out well. Just saying. So you'll have to keep me informed. So again, I always wish everybody the best, no matter what. But let's see how it goes. But yeah. But thank you guys for being here. Would you do a collab show? No. I don't. First of all, it's not. It's too much. First of all, I got enough work here, and when you collaborate with somebody else, then you have to really do all kinds of work together to collaborate. Most of the time, neither one of them really wants to do it. And Lori Lee's got a successful channel. I have a relatively successful channel. We both do our own thing, and I don't know that we need to be together. And I don't know that we work well together because she does legal stuff and I do profiling, which you think could go together, but maybe we'd make a great show together. It's true. I just don't. I personally don't have the energy. I don't do other people's shows at all, even for a visit. I don't visit on other people's shows. Only on the rare occasion I have done only two television shows. I guess both were News Nation. Can't remember now. One was on Rachel Moran, who got murdered in Maryland. I did that on behalf of her family. And the second one was they invited me to talk about Madeleine McCann and didn't pre-interview me. So I actually said what I thought about Madeleine McCann. It was great because I got like 10 minutes where the guy's like, she's not supposed to be saying this stuff. I'm like, and I got away with it. It was great. But other than that, I don't do other channels because it's just more work for me and it really serves no purpose in the long run. And I rather recommend the few channels I like. I'd rather recommend then I'll let people go enjoy those channels and get different kinds of things from those channels. And so, yeah, no, there's just too much work too. Just is. Thanks, Cat. Thanks, Cat's Pat. Thanks, Cat's Pat Chat. Wait a minute. Oh, now Sweeney Todd. Yes, you can sing me anything from Sweeney Todd. I'm a Sweeney Todd fanatic. I love Sweeney Todd, especially the barber and his wife, and he was beautiful. love Sweeney Todd. Yeah, it's rare for me to love a thing that has a story about a serial killer, but that's the one I do love. Yeah. So anyway, thank you all for being here. And oh, you woke up early. Okay. or you have insomnia. That's usually people like, I can't sleep. At least I can listen to Pat, So thank you all for being here. Oh, hi, Harper. Oh, sorry, I got to itch my nose. Thank you for the show, Pat. I only saw the second half this time. I'm glad I tuned in. You can thank you. I'll have fun at choir. We're getting ready for a Christmas program, and this is will be my second performance. And I'm not a great singer, but I enjoy being part of the choir. So I'm in the soprano section, and it's fun. And it's fun to do. So I'm enjoying it. I always want to try something new. I did try improv, which I thought I'd be good at because I do stuff like this, but I hated it. It wasn't for me. I absolutely hated doing it. So I lasted like 3 sessions. I'm like, done, not me. So, it's pretty decent. Well, maybe in 5 years, I might learn to sing better. I don't know. So anyway, okay. Did you? Oh, really? Is there really an address for Sweeney Todd? Says he's fictional. I have a strong voice. I don't know. I'm very skeptical of my singing abilities. I'm not. It's not something I go around and say, "Oh, I'm a singer." No. Yeah, I'm nowhere near that. So, but anyway, thank you for being here. I'll be back on Sunday with something. Don't know yet, but keep posted when I'll send something out. And so I will see you then. Thanks for being here, everybody. Again, haven't subscribed? Do subscribe. Bye.